What's going on, guys? And welcome to another edition of Inside the Hashes. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Inside the Hashes. I'm your humble host, Jerome Jones, and we got my humble host, Ray, Mr. Roberts. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
Doing good, man. I'm glad to be here, ready to get into some draft stuff because we're so close. We're about a month out, and it's getting more and more exciting. I'm hearing crazy rumors, and people are dropping people and lifting people, and it's total chaos right now, Ray. I want to get your take on some of the takes that you're hearing in this draft that you're like, what?
Um, well, there's nothing that has surprised me because we know how people are. They move people around because of the combine. I will not to get into my top five too quickly, but I've heard people that have Trayvon Walker as a top three talent in this year's draft. And I'm not saying that he's not a talented player, but he is. But if you move him ahead of guys that have played better than him all year because of the combine, then you're not doing your job correctly. So,
Yeah, I was actually surprised that you didn't say this, right? But and we'll talk about safeties later on in a few weeks. But Kyle Hamilton, I mean, they're dropping him because it's for 7, and I'm just like, you guys have not watched enough tape. If you really think that Kyle Hamilton is gonna drop, I am okay allowing him to drop and come to the Eagles at 15, 16, or 19. I don't even care, man. Go ahead,
right.
keep doubting this guy. Let him go down there and let the Eagles grab him.
Again, I agree with you 100% on that. If you didn't watch Kyle Hamilton play this year and think that he's one of the top 10 or 15 players in college football, then you probably should not be watching college football. Sorry.
Nope, I agree. For real. No, seriously. So let's get off of that subject a little bit and let's get into our top 10. Today we're gonna do our top five on interior linemen and then our top five on edge rushers. So these are guys that me and Ray have our own little list who we think should be at these positions. And we're gonna go from five, four, three, two, one. So we've done this with the whole offense. So if you haven't seen all of our offense, make sure you go on our YouTube channel and type in Inside the Hashes. You can find our live podcast on RPO podcast and search Inside the Hashes RPO, and you'll find all our podcasts. We did all the offensive players. Last week we had Jacob Keppen step in and help us listen to that. So if you haven't, please go in there and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button while you're still there as well. But anyway, let's get into our interior defensive line. So this is gonna be what we personally think they're gonna be and how we rank them in this draft. So I'm starting with you, Ray. Number 5, who you got right there?
I have DeMarvin Neal from Texas A&M. I think again he's more of a one gap penetrating type guy, but a good athlete and a good football player. So
Ray, starting off the day really well. We got the same player, the Marvin as well. Some off the field issues, which is gonna probably hinder him a little bit. With that, had a lackluster last season. Um, I'm not gonna say lackluster, but like expectations were higher than we, and he didn't deliver as much. But a very athletic defensive line. Again, if the right team gets him, I think he'd be a good fit for them.
I think that he's a guy who can play on multiple fronts, even in odd fronts. I think that he could play a one or a three tech in a 3-4, or he could move inside and play, a little bit farther outside. I'm sorry, a little farther outside in a 3-4, or move him inside and let him play to 1 or 3 in a 4-3. And I think that he's going to be a penetrating type of guy who's a disruptive force in your backfield. Again, I've heard the same thing, some off the field issues, but I'm judging guys for on field. I don't get too carried up in what I hear that's going on off the field. For one, I don't know exactly what the stories are, so I don't get involved in that stuff.
Same here, Ray. Same here. I try not to get involved too much, but also you also kind of have to know a little bit just to know like some teams are gonna drop them a little bit further down because of that. So it's kind of good to know, but like you said, I don't like to get too involved in what happened and what they did, unless it's like drastic or something like that. But
And I do agree with you with that, but I think that's what the whole interview process will be after the combine. That is where you iron that stuff out. And again, we're not able to do that with these guys. So I can only judge what I see on the field. So yeah.
100%, 100%. Yeah. Again, guys, if you are live with us, we got a couple people that are live with us on YouTube. Make sure you can put your comment on here live, and we will answer them live on here as well. So, Ray, who is your number 4 defensive lineman in this draft?
Darian Mathis from Alabama, good athlete who has still not reached his full potential, I don't believe. I think he still has room to grow as a player. And, of course, when you play in Alabama, you play pro-style defense and offense. So you get a good idea from where you think you could fit in your defense right now. So
100%, 100%. Ray, I feel like you copied off my list. Got the same exact guy at this position as well. So Flynn Matthews, a guy that we got to talk to at the Senior Bowl. Really, really nice guy. Good character guy. I think like he still didn't reach his full potential yet. Even being at Alabama, I really feel like he could tap in and probably be one of the better defensive tackles when it's all said and done. But I just feel like his potential has not been reached yet, and I think sky's the limit for him. I really do.
yeah, I agree with you. I think that, like, for one, none of these guys are finished products, man. They'll be in the league for 4 or 5 years before that even happens.
Yeah.
So, again, you see a very raw athlete who could probably play in multiple fronts, probably could easily play in a 3-4 as an outside guy, or as a 1 or a 3 tech, or play inside, 1 tech, 1A, in a 4-3. The production's not great, but it's good. But we know Alabama rotates guys, and that's probably why the production isn't where you might want it to be. So
Definitely. All right, let's get to our number 3 guy, Ray. Who you have at number 3?
Number 3, I had Devonta Wyatt from Georgia, another kid who could probably play in any defense, a 4-3 or a 3-4. Of course, in a 3-4, he'd play a 3 or a 5 tech. In a 4-3, he'd play a 1 or a 3 tech. Again, a good athlete. We know that Georgia's defensive front, especially their front 7, was loaded with players this year. So, again, a very good football player and a guy who can play in any type of a defense. So
100%. Yeah. Ray, it's the first time me and your list is different. I'm gonna have Pierre Winfrey right here from Oklahoma. I think he is a baller. He went to the Senior Bowl. He was actually the Senior Bowl MVP of the game. He showed a lot of athleticism for a big guy there. I think that his attitude, he's got a mean streak to him. He's very violent with his hands. I really like what he showed at the Senior Bowl, which made me want to put him a little higher than probably most people, honestly. But I got him at 3. Ray, what do you think about him?
I like him a lot. I actually have him as my second guy. I like Perry and Winfrey. I think, again, kind of like Marvin Neal, where he's a little bit undersized to play in a traditional 3-4, but in a 4-3, this kid can be a penetrating force in your offensive backfield. So,
yeah, I think that's somebody that you can probably move around on the offensive line as well. You put him at tackle and at edge if you need to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, situations.
I wouldn't want him to take on double teams. I'd rather him go one-on-one against guys where he can use his quickness and his ability to shuffle through guys. Yeah. But again, a good football player. People don't look at him because Oklahoma's defense just does not play great defense. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. And, Ray, since you revealed your number 2, I'm going to reveal my number 2, who's obviously Devonta Wyatt. So we flipped those guys on both our lips. But I think both of them could be 1 and 1, 2. It's very close. But Devonta Wyatt, obviously, he played on a Georgia team that have a lot of ballers on their team, so it's probably not as hard to get single coverage and single blocking rather, and get a lot more penetration. So his production was probably really up because it was a really extraordinary defense, historic defense for a team. And I think that lies into our number one guy. And Ray, you could honors in revealing that because we both got the same guy.
Oh, of course. With Jordan Davis, he kind of like solidified everything you kind of had a feeling for him in the combine. I do think that my only question about him is, can you get a little bit more of a pass rush from him? That's why if you wanted to draft a guy who play in a 4-3, I may just lean toward Winfrey because I know I can get pass rush from him. Jordan Davis, I'm not sure that I would get it from him, but I think that if you ask him to get in a little bit better shape and just let him do his thing, I think he may get a little bit more than you think you will from him.
And Ray, that's the point where that scares me with Jordan White. I mean Jordan Davis. Again, we both have him at number one on our list. He's a very athletic, big guy, strong, fast. But the thing I'm worried about is his weight. That scares the living death out of me. I've seen players where they have all the time in the world, but they cannot keep their weight down, and it hinders them. So I'm very nervous about that. But I think he's the number one guy. But Ray, I do pose a question to you. Do you see him as a nose or a 3-tech?
I think he's better suited right now to play as a nose, but I do think that you could play him in multiple fronts. If you wanted to play him in a 4-3, he would do a good job there. I'm not sure how much pass rush I would get from him in that spot. So as a 3, if you play him as a 0-tech in a 3-4, you don't worry about that. You just worry about him taking double teams on. Where if you play him in a 4-3, he could do the same thing and free up other guys around him. But can I take a guy who's only going to be a nose in a 3-4? Can I take him in as a top 10 or 15 player? I'm not sure about that.
I agree, Ray. I agree. All right,
but
let's get to our interior.
So he's a versatile kid.
Oh, 100%. I would say 100%, and that's gonna make him a highly drafted guy and highly sought over guy, especially at this combine. But again, the weight thing kind of always bothers me about players like that. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to our interior lineman sleepers. Ray, who is your sleeper of this year?
Well, I have 2 of them, and I have again, I have Travis Jones from Connecticut, another 325-pound kid, 6'4", and again, I think he could play in multiple fronts. You could play him as a 0 or a 1 or a 3-tech and a 3-4. I'm sorry, in a 3-4, a 0-tech or a 1-tech and a 3-4. Or play him as a 1 or a 3 and a 4-3. A versatile kid, a kid who's big, will take on double teams, a good football player. And I also have Logan Hall from Houston. Logan Hall is a little bit different story where I think he needs to absolutely play in a 4-3 where you take advantage of his pass rush skills. So
it's interesting, Ray, because not to get ahead, but I got Logan Hall as my edge, not a defensive type or the interior defensive lineman. So that's interesting. That's interesting that you got him in the interior. I'm gonna go with, forgive me for the name, Obito Abenabia from UCLA. He'll be my sleeper for this category. I think that he was really flashy at UCLA. I think people need to kind of pay attention to him as well. I think he's gonna have a solid career in the NFL. He won't be your dominant go getter, but he'd be a guy that you could put in there, maybe put him next to a dominant kind of player, and he will succeed. Kind of like how the defensive tackle from the Eagles succeeded because he had Fletcher Cox next to him. I forgot his name. Hargrove, Devon Hargrove. I think he'd be a player in that kind of sense.
I think he's a good football player. I think that the interior defensive line is pretty deep this year. The edges are not bad. The edge rushes are pretty good too. I think you have a lot of depth in this year's draft,
Really
and
good.
it's a good thing. I do. I think there's a lot of depth this year. I think that the only spots that I don't see good quality depth is actually offensive tackle. I don't think of a lot of great offensive tackles. I think you have like 6 or 7 guys, and then after that, it gets really, really not a lot of depth there. I think there's a lot of depth at almost every other position except for quarterback, of course.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Let's get to our small school players now. These are people from small schools that may not, a lot of people may not be talking about or may not know. So, Ray, I'm gonna start you off. Who's your small school guy?
I have Noah Ellis from Idaho. A 6'4", 340-pound kid. Again, a 0 or a 1 tech and a 3-4. You could probably let him play some rundowns in a 4-3, but I think if you play him as a nose in a 3-4, you're going to get a lot of depth there and a lot of versatility there from him. So he's
Definitely.
the one.
I like him a lot. But
no, he's the one guy who I'm not going to say he's not as athletic as Jordan Davis, but I see that same kind of girth, same big guy, hard to move type of a kid. So
yeah, definitely. All right, for my for my small school, I'm gonna go with, and I kind of hate to say this because this guy's starting not to be a sleeper, but he is a small school guy. Travis Jones from UConn, as you said, right? People are starting to recognize who he is. That's why they couldn't put him as. I didn't want to put him as sleeper because he's starting to get that buzz. He's starting to get first round, early second round buzz right now. But Travis Jones, for all the same reasons you said, right? He's an incredible defensive tackle. I actually kind of wanted him to be in my top 5. Actually, he just didn't make the cut, but I really wanted him in my top 5.
The only reason I wouldn't put him in my top 5 is because he did play at Connecticut, so the level of competition is not great. So
True. I agree. All right, let's get to the edge rushers. So we're gonna do that real quick as I change this. But while I'm doing that, guys, again, if you are on here live, you can put in your live comments. So if you aren't in here live, you see a couple guys watching right now, don't be shy. You can ask some questions, and if we can put it on our screen, and then we'll answer them for you. So if you have any questions, throw it in there, and we will definitely answer them for you. All right, let's get to our edge rushers. Top 5 edge rushers between me and Ray. Ray, you go first. Who is your number 5?
I have Jermaine Johnson for Florida State, kid who really stood out in the combine and in the pro days. He's really played very well. He had a nice year for Florida State. And again, people kind of slept on him a little bit during the season because Florida State struggled a lot this year. So,
yeah. No, 100%. I got him in my top 5 as well, a little bit higher than you. I'll get to him in a second. But for me, number 5, I got 5A and 5B, taking a page out of Ray's book right there, because, and I'll explain why in a second. Number 5A is George Carloff. I couldn't leave him off my list at all. He is a guy that consistent guy, and I hate to say it because everybody keeps saying it, but it's so true. He reminds me of Ryan Kerrigan. I know we went to the same school, but they had the same build, and it's just like they remind me of each other so much. Like it's kind of unfair to keep doing that to him, but it does. And then 5B, I'm gonna pick my guy, David Ojabo. Yes, he just got Achilles heel, and yes, he's not gonna play this year at all, probably. But the talent is still there, man. If he wasn't injured, he'll be in my top 3. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, as you see, I am a Michigan fan, yes. So a little biased, maybe, but no, he's very athletic. I want to put him in here because we got to remember that yes, these players might get injured and this and that, but you got to remember, like, this is the investment for years to come, not just for next year. So you draft this guy, maybe hopefully he's to get drafted pretty high, still maybe in the second round, maybe in the third round. I doubt if somebody gets him in the third round, they get in the gym because he is a baller. He's going to be a project, but you can definitely work out with what you got right there, and you only going to have to shuffle him for 1 year. So let him sit down, let him learn the NFL, and then let him come back full health. And then I wish him all the best. Good luck to you, and Ojabo. Hopefully you recover really fast.
I agree with you about. I hope that he comes back, but I don't draft guys that Terrier always do. Sorry.
I give you that. I give you that.
I won't do it.
I mean, hey, it bit us in the butt as the Eagles fan with Sidney Jones, but hey, I'll take a chance on Ojabo. I'm definitely higher on Ojabo.
Take a chance on him in the third round, but not in the first.
Oh no! Not saying that, but I still want to put him in my top 5 just to know he's still a top 5 guy in my opinion. But anyway, Ray, who you have at number 4?
I have Trayvon Walker at number 4 from Georgia. Again, good football player, very super athletic kid. And I know that people are going to say that I have him too low, but this is where I had him before the combine, and I'm not moving him according to the combine numbers. I just don't do that. So
I love that, Ray. Stick to your guns, man. Stick to your guns. Hey, you might not make that popular opinion, but hey, yes, your opinion.
Guys that draft according to combine numbers are the guys that draft Mike Mamola in the first round, okay? No, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, thank you.
All right, let's get to my number 4. And my number 4 guy is actually your number 5 guy, and it's Truman Johnson. For all the same reasons you say, I think he's a little bit better than most people think. Got to see him at the combine. He did really well there. And again, like you said, Florida State was not a good team. I mean, but we every time we get on this podcast and we talk about this school, we say the same thing. Florida State has some ballers, but it just cannot bring it together. And I think that would be overshadowed a little bit. But I think people starting to realize like he's a baller. He's a really good athlete. I have him at 4 because I think the other 3 guys are a little bit more polished and proven in a sense. But I do think that he's gonna make some noise. Ray, who you have at number 3?
I have Drew Carloff from Purdue. I liked him during the season. I had him rated at number 3 from about midseason on. And again, I'm not moving him off of that because his combine numbers weren't as good as certain other guys. I don't believe in that. I believe in game film and game tape is how I judge my guys, and I'll stick with that. So
I will say this: other than my number 1 guy, I think he's been the most consistent, though.
He has been. Going into the season, most people thought he was going to be a good player, and he was a good player throughout the year. And again, I'll take a guy who was good all year as opposed to a guy who was, don't get me wrong, and I'm basically talking about Trayvon Walker because, again, I saw some people that have Trayvon Walker as a top 5 player right now, and I'm not doing that off of a combine. I don't do that. So
yeah, I wouldn't do that. Even though he is my number 3 guy, I'm going to reveal that now. But
I have him at 4. You have him at 3. That's fine. He's a good football player. I'm not trying to say he's not, but I'm not going to move him into having him in your top 5 is fine. Telling me he's a top 5 player now because he had a really good combine is how you should lose your job, to be honest with you, if you're a football guy. So
100%. And like I say, I have him at number 3. I do think, he's very athletic. We'll see how that turns out because, again, and I see why you have him at 4, Ray, and it kind of makes me think too because he was on that. Same thing with Jordan Davis. Very good defense. Same thing with Devonta Wyatt as well. Very good defense. Historically good defense. And sometimes you can shine a little bit more because you don't have to worry about double teams and this and that, So I think that could be another factor. He's very athletic, like I said. I would love to see him play and on a different team that don't have all the stars and see how he does. I do still think he's a guy, but he's not a top 5 guy where he's going to be drafted in the top 5. I totally agree with you on that one, Ray.
As a top 20 guy, absolutely. Top 5? Not a chance. Not in my book.
Yeah,
That's all.
I agree. I agree. All right, Ray, number 2, who you got?
Aidan Hutchinson from Michigan. Again, a good physical run player who will get some pressure on the quarterback. But I like him a lot. I think he's a top 10 player in the draft. You could argue he's top 5, and I won't argue with you. But as a top 10 guy, as a guy that can come in and play some strong side defensive end and get some quarterback pressure on for you, and a guy you can move inside and get some nice pass rush underneath inside, I think he's a great football player. I think that really him and my next guy are probably the two guys that really will just stand out, and you could play them anywhere, and they're going to be productive. So,
yeah, 100%. My number 2 guy is probably your number 1 guy. Kayvon Thibodeau. Long rangy kind of defensive end. The guy that the prototypical edge guy that I like. That's him. I like my defensive ends, long, lengthy, strong, fast. I like those type of defensive ends or edge rather. Classify him as edge. Yeah, I think he's great. I think he's better than Aidan Hutchinson, who's my number 1 guy. I'm just gonna say that now. I think he's better than him as far as a pass rusher, but I think he lacks a little bit of the run defense, which is fine. He's not horrible at it. He's fine. He reminds me a lot of what's his name from Houston that got drafted by Houston. Man, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Clowney, Jadeveon Clowney. He got a lot of Jadeveon Clowney in him. He actually said that he reminds himself as Jadeveon Clowney. I was like, yeah, that makes sense, for sure. I think that I'm not gonna sit here and say that he's either better or worse than Clowney, because that's to be seen. But the qualities that he have are the same, and that's not a knock on him. That's not saying that Clowney had some really really good seasons, and he's still really good. It's just that for whatever reason, he cannot stay on the team. But
well, he's a clown. We already know why. He's a clown. He's a clown.
No, you're right.
He's a good football player, but he seems to play better when he's playing for a check than when he's not playing for his check. So
I give you that. I definitely give you that.
I think Thibodeau's going to be a better player than Clowney, especially as a pass rusher. I think he's a guy who will get double-digit sacks. Here's the thing about Clowney. Clowney's had, I think, 2 seasons where he has 9 sacks. That's the most he's ever had.
Yeah.
And again, it always seems to be that 1 year where he's playing for his next contract. Those guys scare me. Clowney is an excellent athlete who plays defensive end, who seems to rather play for a check than to play the wing game. So
I agree. Well, obviously, Thibodeau's your number 1 guy. Explain why.
Because all the reason I just said, I think he is a freak athlete who people say, well, maybe he's not that strong against the run. That's because no one in his conference runs the ball. So how do you judge him on that? As a pass rusher, I think he's going to be a special player. So,
yeah, my number 1 guy is Aidan Hutchinson. Bias aside, add the bias in there. I don't care. I got to see this guy every time he played on the field. I like this guy so much. I said when he was probably like 2 games in, I was like, dude, I want him on the Eagles. I don't know if you remember that, right? But I was like, I want him on the Eagles. He had to go on the Eagles. Eagles have to get a top 5 pick for him. Obviously, we don't. But yeah, he's a guy that and it made me even like him even more when I seen the PFF rating on him. But he was the number 1 run defender in college football. That says a lot for me as a defensive end. That shows me a lot because as you see behind me, this guy is very athletic. He can pass. He can rush the passer. He's very relentless. His motor don't stop. He's a leader on a team. Everything. So he has the total package. Like Ray said, though, I will say that his pass rush moves need to be a little bit better. And I think if and when I think he can be really good, I compare him to a Jared Allen, I thought he had a great career, Hall of Fame career. He could do this a lot of the same things that Jared Allen can. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer, but that's why he's my number one guy. I don't blame anybody that will draft him 1, 2, or 3, whatever. And you can shuffle around people at 1, 2, and 3, whatever way you like. My guy is Aidan Hutchinson. I know the Eagles have no chance of getting him anymore, which I'm very, very sad about. But I'm happy for him because he was a baller and he showed all those skills and all that leadership and everything too, which people don't always equivalate and draft stocks and where they can be drafted too. That's a very good trait to have in your locker room. So
I think that Thibodeau and Hutchinson are both top 5 players.
yeah,
They'll probably both be drafted in the top 5. And if someone takes Hutchinson before Thibodeau, I'd be like, that's fine. They're both gonna be really good football players. I mean, I don't have a. I mean, I have Thibodeau because I think he's going to be a little bit of a better pass rusher, a little bit longer like arms. Yeah. I think he's going to be a good football player. But again, Hutchinson is going to be good. No, and the Eagles have no shot of getting either one of them, but he's going to be really good. And again, you can't go wrong with them two guys. They're both going to be really good. I mean, I think Thibodeau is an underrated run player. Again, most teams in his conference don't run the ball that much. Where in Michigan, he plays in the Big Ten, Big East, whatever you want to call it. He does play against teams that run the ball a little bit more. So,
definitely, I agree. I for sure agree. Let's get to our next topic: is the edge sleepers. So these are sleepers that we think are going to be really good players in the NFL, but people don't know about them. So, Ray, you're a sleeper.
I have 2, and I feel kind of funny calling one a sleeper because he's been shooting up the draft board. But I have him anyway. I have Boy Mafe from Minnesota. Kid had a 42-inch vertical leap. He's going to be a primo. He's a primo athlete, and I think he's a good football player. And I don't know exactly where people will draft him, but I think he's a end of the first, early second round player right now. Right. And I have Kinsley Engelbar from South Carolina, another kid who can hold the edge and give you a nice pass rush and probably be a decent run player too. I like both of these guys. I think both of them are more like second-round picks, but I would not be surprised to see Boy Mafe go in the end of the first round. So
definitely. Yeah, Ray, you love yourself some Mafe, man. I see you used to talk about him all the time. Player from Minnesota. That was your guy, Ray, and you talked about him a lot. Before
I do. I liked him going into the season. I liked him from last year. He showed a lot of glimpses from some flash last year, and again, he did nothing to decrease his value. He balled out at the combine. He's ran like his pro day was really good. I think he's a primo athlete who just needs to define his skills a little bit more, and then you're going to get a really good football player out of him. So.
100%. All right, I'm gonna give my sleeper guy, and this is the guy that Inside the Hatch just got to interview. He was a last minute add on to the Senior Bowl roster, and he did the most when he was done there. A guy that I really like him not only as a player but a man who had some trouble, in school, but he's looking to redeem himself and clear his name and get better as a person. And if please go and check out our interview with him. Sam Williams from Ole Miss, a really good player. I think he could have been round 2, maybe edged out in around 1, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of edge rushers, so it's kind of hard to say that. But second round guy who might not get drafted into like maybe the 3rd or 4th round because a lot of people are still worried about the character stuff. But I mean, a guy that's trying to really redeem himself. He just had a kid who's he's trying to be a better father to him. And again, watch our interview with him Inside the Hatches on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Check him out, man. He's a good guy trying to redeem himself, looking for a redemption and playing out his mind. And he did really well at the combine, right? A guy that I was just like so proud of seeing him doing that. Any thoughts on him, Ray?
Yeah, he's a good football player, and the word is that Andy Reid is a big fan. If he gets past Kansas City in the second round, I'd be surprised. So
yeah, for sure. All right, let's get to our next one. This will be the small school edge rushers. So these are guys that are. Oh, let me fix that. These are guys that are in smaller schools, but people might not know their name. So, Ray, go ahead.
I have two of these guys too, and I have to meet Dominique Robinson from Miami of Ohio, a 6'4", 255-pound kid who's a dynamic pass rusher who's going to be a really good player for somebody, and they'll probably get him in the third or fourth round. I think he's a good football player. And Alex Wright from UAB,
Mm.
a kid who's a strong side defensive end who probably give you some
Ooh,
pass rush, and maybe you can move him inside and give you some inside pass rush too. I think he's a good football player, and like we're saying, this is a nice. If you need edge guys, you are in the right draft to get one. So
this is your year. This is your year. Yeah, Alex Wright actually is a guy that we interview. We haven't picked the interview out yet, so I'm giving you guys a little spoiler. But he a guy that we just interviewed, so I'm glad that you mentioned him, Ray. He's a really good guy. I got two guys as well, Ray, and one of the guys I already talked about that I said that you mentioned before, but you had him as interior. I had him as an edge, and that would be Logan Hall. I got two guys from the same role, just so you know. But um, it's funny because I think Jim Nagy does a great job of finding these guys, and I agree with a lot of the reasons why he has them at the senior role. But Logan Hall played edge at the senior bowl. I thought did really well there, and he showed a lot of flash. But my guy, my one of my favorite small school guys in this whole entire draft is D'Angelo Malone. I'm really high on him. I like him a lot. He's from West Kentucky. He played very well at the Senior Bowl. He showed that hey, I belong. I'm a guy I was really high on. Again, the same type of length and speed I like at my edge rushers. My prototypical guy that would be D'Angelo Malone. And I feel like with some good pass rush training and coaching, he can be somebody that can really shine in the NFL.
I'm a big fan too. You know that Jerome. We've talked about him a couple of different times. My only
Yeah,
question is, at 245 pounds, can he do some stuff in dropping in
right.
coverage, shade in the flat area, and just make people hold the ball a little longer and then get to the quarterback? We'll see if he can do that. But I'm a big fan of Delangelo Malone. I think he's a
Yeah,
good football player. And again, keep talking
right.
about how deep of an edge class this is. It's really deep. And I'm glad that it is
Yeah,
because edge, interior defensive line, interior offensive line, linebackers. It's really deep, and Miami needs them positions, and they don't have many early picks this year. So I'm going to need some of these guys to drop down there a little bit for me. So
you'll get somebody. You'll get somebody. But
I'm sure I will.
definitely, I agree with you right though. I do. And it's funny because when making this list, I was really having a difficult time with the edge rushers. I'm not gonna lie, just ranking them. Obviously, we got the top three guys that are gonna be there, but ranking the rest of them, like you can mismatch. It's a lot of depending on what teams they get picked by and this and that. Even with the sleepers in small school, I'm just like, man, I just got like five small school guys that I wanted to put on here. I had like for a sleeper, I wanted to put Arnold Epiketti. I wanted to put him on there. I couldn't. I was like, I can't put everybody on here.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
man, it's such a deep class and a class that like you said, Ray. If you're looking for an edge rusher, you are licking your fingers right now. You're like, good, because they are really good players for real.
there is like you could go through
It's
every
very exciting
conference,
too.
every and find a few guys here in every one of them. I just think that again, I'm really excited about this year's draft, even though Miami doesn't have any
Yeah,
picks really in the first two rounds. So day one, unless they do something crazy and trade up into that round one, maybe use. I'm hoping. I shouldn't say I'm hoping. I could see them if the right guy falls down early in the first round. Maybe they use one of their first round picks next year and try to get back into either the second or the first round. I don't know if you – I think right now if you look at the Dolphins, and I don't want to get too much into the Dolphins. I know they're a pro team. I don't know if they're going to – if they can get back into the first round with a first-round pick, because if everything goes right for Miami, they're going to – I'm hoping they're going to be a playoff team this year. And I think most teams probably think they're probably going to be a 25 to 30 pick, depending on how they – and maybe you'll be like, well, no, I don't want to trade my first-round pick for that next year. So,
Definitely. No, I'm in the same boat as you, right? And the feeling that, I hope you guys definitely get an edge rusher that y'all want. And I don't know if a team will trade you guys again, unless a team like really wants a quarterback for next year and trades out, and then like maybe a multiple first round team like a Eagles or something like that will trade you guys for a first round for next year, just because you can have 2 first round next year and can trade up to get a quarterback or something like that. Something in that aspect. I think that would be something.
I could see where if one of them quarterbacks that somebody likes is there, maybe somebody will do something like that. I don't think that I don't want to get into the quarterback position again. There's nobody that I would move up into the first round to take. So that's just me.
Definitely. All right, cool, for sure. So so that's gonna do it for us today, Ray. Again, always appreciate you getting on. I'm super excited about these edge rushing class. The draft is right around the corner. I think we got what is it? Tomorrow is the first. So tomorrow the first. We got 28 days, right?
Friday is the first.
Friday's the first. We got about 29 days. 29 days until we do this. So
I'm super. When we get down into a month, I'm ready to go, man.
Yes, sir.
A lot of content.
Our final boards and our final rankings and all of that, put it all together, and this is all exciting to me, right? For sure.
I can't wait to see the Eagles reach for a quarterback in the first round.
I hate you, right? Don't say that to me.
I don't think they should, but nothing surprises me, man. Somebody, and I'm just kidding with the Eagles, I know somebody's going to try to get back into the first round, or somebody's going to take a quarterback in the first round, and you know what? They're going to regret it.
Mm-hmm. How many first round, Ray, quarterbacks?
How many do I think should be taken, or how many do I think will be taken?
I mean, think will be. I know what you think. I think Ray.
At least 3.
I'm not thinking that you say 1 or 2.
At least 3.
At least 3.
At least
Ray,
3.
I'm thinking 4.
I wouldn't be surprised with 4, but I'm saying at least 3.
Because I think Malik, Corral, I think still Pickett, and then somebody's gonna jump in maybe the late to get the first.
If you take Malik Willis in the first round, I can see that. I wouldn't take him before the 15th pick. I wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's there after 15, I definitely think somebody will and maybe should. But if you take Pickett or Corral in the first round, I think you're making a big mistake.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Thank you guys for checking us out. Make sure you check us out on all our social media, Inside the Hatches, and on our website, InsideTheHatches.com. Also, make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel on Inside the Hatches. Make sure you like, subscribe, and if you're not used to us being live, you go on our replay game and put your comments on there. But if you do want to see us live, hit the notification button on there, and when you go live, and you can put your comments in here as well. Also, make sure that you go and check us out. Check us out on our Spotify app podcast and Google Podcasts. You find all our player interviews. A lot of players that we talked about today, we did interview. So make sure you go check that out. Also, make sure you go and hit up us on that Inside the Hatches, because we got a lot of content going on. A lot. So we want you to be tuned in. We need to be locked in, because we're gonna have a lot more draft stuff coming out very, very soon. We're gonna have a mock draft special. We're probably gonna have like 2 or 3 before the draft. So make sure you go check that out as well. So thank you guys once again. I'm your host, Jerron Jones. We got Ray Roberts up in the building. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a good weekend. And we see you next week when we will be talking about the linebackers. So, guys, thanks again. See ya. Stay safe out there. Peace.